Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, where the podcast where two guys use the mighty algorithm to watch random movies and talk about them. So, with me as always is the Dominic Toretto to my Dwayne The Rock Johnson, or whatever his name was in that series, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn. My family.
Firmly.
Family. Before we recorded, we were just talking about the Fast 9 trailer.
F9. Is it just F9 now?
I don't care. 9 Fast, 9 Furious. So this is one of our mini episodes, which sometimes become longer than a regular episode, called What You Watching, where we just talk about what movies we've been watching. It's been about 4 weeks since we last recorded, just because we had stuff coming up. So we've got more than usual, although I still haven't gotten to my record of watching 30 movies in 2 weeks. That was a lot. I'm not sure I'll ever want to do that again.
that's a chore, actually.
Yeah, that was a lot of work. But yeah, so I'll just go ahead and go through the ones I watched. So first one, I watched Lone Wolf and Cub, White Heaven and Hell, which is the last of the '70s Lone Wolf and Cub movies.
Nice.
This one was fun because towards the end, like zombies show up, and then like he turns like the baby cart into almost like a sled. They can slide around, has like a machine gun inside, and all this other pretty tricked out stuff.
Oh,
It's like they knew it was going to be the last one, so they just kind of go nuts.
okay, you've talked about all the rest of them. It's already been on my watch list, but it's moving up towards the top of my watch list now, I think.
I believe the whole series is on Criterion. I've got the nice Criterion box set on Blu-ray.
Oh, sweet.
Next, I watched To Be or Not to Be, which is made by Ernst Lubitsch during World War II, about a Polish theater group. And after the war gets invaded, they have to try and find a way to escape from the Nazis. And they do that by almost impersonating some Nazis because they're actors, and that's what they do. It's a heavy subject, but it's also really funny because it's like this whole thing about like whether the married couple, whether like she's cheating on him or something. Despite its very heavy subject, it doesn't take itself super seriously, but also still has some really fun, dramatic moments.
Oh,
Starring Jack Benny.
starring who?
Jack Benny and Carol Lombard.
Okay, I've heard of that one. I haven't seen it.
I believe this one is also on Criterion Channel. Next, I watched Within Our Gates, one of two surviving films by Oscar Micheaux, who is a pioneering black filmmaker from like the early 1910s. So this is a silent film, and it's about a young black woman who's trying to get money for her small town so they can build like a children's recreation center, or it might be a school or something. I don't remember exactly. And it's also very willing to say, because this is, a bit of a reaction to what came out 2 years before, Birth of a Nation, which even back then it was racist and people were like protesting it, despite what your white college professor talked about it
Yeah.
in film history class. So it's fun to really interesting see something from that time period made in opposition
Cool.
to that, whether or not it was like in direct opposition, but of course, in the same time period. Next is Nomadland, was the Oscar Best Picture nominated film starring Frances McDormand, directed by Chloe Zhao. I've talked about Chloe Zhao before. I reviewed her film The Rider, which is another really good one of hers. I would love to see Chloe Zhao take on a big budget western, because she kind of did that a little bit in The Rider, and she gorgeous stuff around like the American Southwest, just travel, because this is half road movie in it too, because the main character Fern is always traveling around, living in her van.
Okay, yeah. I've seen, this one is available for streaming, but and it's up for Oscars, but I just haven't gotten myself because watching a trailer, I'm like, I don't know what this is. It looks boring. So, I mean, apparently it's a good movie. I mean, it's up for an Oscar now. So
It's definitely a character piece.
I might like it.
Sort of.
Frances McDormand might be the thing that brings me in to watch it, though.
She's so good, but then she's always been good since the very beginning.
Exactly.
And some of the actors in it are actually sort of non-professional actors who are playing kind of versions of themselves, because this is based off of a nonfiction book.
Oh, okay.
And then I watched on HBO Max Godzilla vs. Kong.
Hey, we can knock that off my list too and talk about that.
Yeah. Giant monkey, giant lizard, and they fight.
Yes, that's pretty much my that sums up mine. I watched that with my daughter Elsa, and we both had fun watching the monkey and the lizard fight. The story.
Yeah, I watched this.
Sorry,
Story doesn't matter.
no, and that's what I was going to say. Is like there's a lot of the story that I'm going. I don't even know what the hell you're doing, but go back to the monkey and the lizard.
I think it's smart because this film knows that the story doesn't really matter, and the audience isn't really here for the story. We're here for the spectacle.
Yes,
And that's why I think it's smart that they made the film under 2 hours.
yeah. So I think Kong Skull Island might still be my favorite of the group, but this one comes in a close
Mhm.
second just because it's what I wanted from this. It's just a stupid story with monkey, and then bringing in the thing at the end. I was like, cool, yeah, let's see this.
Yeah. Fun to see him team up and fight Mecha Godzilla, so surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But whoever the real winner is, I think it's the audience.
Yep.
Wish I could have seen it in theaters, man.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Next, I watched The Bird with the Crystal Plumage on Criterion Channel.
Ooh, good
I
movie.
think you talked about this one.
I did.
Yeah. A lot of your same thoughts. I love the opening sequence and how it all comes back to like this weird art gallery at the end.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
And that's like one of his first Argento's first movies, isn't it? Like, it might be his
Mhm.
first movie, and it's really good. So
Yeah, what happened to him?
he was good for a while, and then you got into like the 80s and 90s, and boy,
Yeah.
you don't need to watch those.
Next, I watched How to Make a Monster. And this is like from the late 50s. It's technically a sequel to I Was a Teenage Frankenstein and I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Because the story, and it's a great pitch. I love to see a remake of it because it's such a great pitch. Like, okay, so a Hollywood makeup man who specializes in monsters is getting fired. So then he uses his Hollywood makeup and his monsters to like kill people who want to fire him.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really short, just over like an hour 15. And the last 10 minutes are in color, so that's kind of cool.
Nice.
But yeah, it's very much 50s B movie. Roger Cormany, I don't think he directed, but once again, firing a Hollywood makeup man who then uses his skills to try and kill people. I'd love to see that. And what if it was like a Tom Savini type or like a Greg Nicotero makeup man?
That'd be cool.
Mix in the fake gore. It's like, oh, and then the characters slowly realize, no, this is real. That'd be pretty cool. Next, I watched Walking Tall with from the '70s with Joe Don Baker
That's
running around and this
not the one with
being
the
kind
rock.
of sweaty. That's the one they did remake that one with The Rock.
Yes.
Now this one is fun too. Very much, I gotta clean up this town. But then there's like some serious moments too, where like the bad guys like shoot his wife. Like, wait a minute, whoa.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, based off of an allegedly true story about like a small town sheriff who went and cleaned up a small town in the south, and like apparently he would carry around like this 6 foot like post made of wood or something, and then hit people with it.
He walked tall and carried a big stick.
I guess so. Next, I watched The Man Who Knew Too Much, the original version from the 1930s, early sound from Hitchcock with Peter Lorre. And it was kind of interesting because it has the same basic plot, but it feels smaller in scope. But some of it is a bit more interesting than the more famous 1950s version with Jimmy Stewart and Doris Day.
Yeah, because this was the one he remade himself, right? One of his.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fascinating comparison piece. So I definitely watch both of them. Next, I watched Moulin Rouge with an exclamation point. The film with Baz Luhrmann and starring Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman. And then Jim Broadbent is kind of like the goofy hype man who's the head of the Moulin Rouge.
I talked about this one a couple episodes back. I wasn't too big of a fan of it.
I can really appreciate this movie for what it is and the fact that it's so stylized to the point of this unreality that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was too like the first half hour or so was just too much movement, and like you can't tell what's going on, and one scene cuts, and by the time you realize what's going on, you're 3 scenes later. Just it was like a mess of color on the screen, and then like every song was like a montage of multiple songs, so it like felt very like ADD, like, oh, let's sing this song. Oh, wait, let's sing this song. Oh, wait, let's sing this song. Like, I was like, no, I just want a whole song.
It's like, yeah. But I like some of the mashups. I overall, it's fun. I think the ADD kind of over stylized nature is the point,
Yeah.
and I can appreciate it on its own terms because that kind of style, that's really hard to do. That kind of editing, that is hard to do.
And I do like some of Baz Luhrmann's stuff, and most of his stuff is that it's stylized like that. But like this one just didn't work for me in particular.
Hmm.
So I get the appeal though.
Hmm. Definitely would be fun if like there was like some version of like a late show in theaters with. Imagine doing like a sing along version of this musical. That'd be fun to see with an audience.
That'd be crazy.
Hmm. Next, I watched Cast a Dark Shadow, which is another short film. Well, it's like only an hour or something on Criterion Channel. This one was because like a fun, quick little noir about a man who's trying to he's a gold digger because he tries to marry an older woman and then kill her and then take all of her money. So he tries it, he kills her, gets away with it, but then realizes, oh, he didn't get any of the money, so now I should try and do it again.
Wah wah.
Great acting so far. And of course, this is a film noir, so everything goes perfectly according to plan.
Oh, yeah, because those are the best kind of film noirs, right?
Hmm. Yep, nothing happens that changes anything. Then I watched Girls Trip with Tiffany Haddish, Queen Latifah, Regina Hall, and Jada Pinkett Smith. I had never seen this one before. It's fun, very much a goofy party comedy, but then also has some good heart to it. And I like Tiffany Haddish a lot. I like Queen Latifah. I really enjoyed some of the lines and just some of the weird situations they got into.
I saw this in the
And
theater with my wife, and we both laughed a lot. This
and
was
the whole
funny.
and the whole grapefruiting thing.
Okay.
Like the scene where they got high.
Yeah, there was some good stuff in there. I overall like really enjoyed this. It was pretty funny.
And like the cooking demonstration scene was pretty funny too, with like there was the other woman there, and it's just really tense. Next, I watch Sound of Music.
We all know that one.
It's a masterpiece. It's I think I can appreciate it much more as an adult and just how the thing it does. And it hits a little better now, I think, because Nazis are a thing again,
Oh,
unfortunately,
unfortunately, yeah.
than it was when you were a kid. I still think the best pee break is Climb Every Mountain. Just go to the bathroom during that song and it's fine. It's got some good momentum. It's fun. And for me, this was even more fun because a couple years back, I was actually able to go to Austria, into that part of Austria. And I was actually able to see some of the sites that were in the movie. What's funny in that town is just that there's like tours everywhere. There's like a bus tour, there's a bike tour. It's kind of big business to them. But at the same time, if you ask a local about it, it's like, yeah, it was just a movie.
Like, I'm over it.
Mhm. But yeah, they can even have these sing along tours where you go along. But I did get to see the gazebo where US 16 going on 17 was filmed. So that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Next, I watched Warm Bodies. Have you ever seen this one?
Yeah, the zombie Romeo and Juliet. That was
Yeah, Zombie Romeo and Juliet. It's fun. I like Nicholas Hoult. I like who plays Juliet. I like Rob Corddry as like the friend zombie, and then like John Malkovich is there to be John Malkovich, and he's just fine.
That's always okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun spin on Romeo and Juliet. I liked it.
Yeah, it's a fun, goofy zombie movie.
I know this one. I actually got my wife to watch. She doesn't like horror movies, but I was like, well, this one should be okay because it's basically Romeo and Juliet. But we watched it, and there's those really dark zombies that like the really evil ones, and
Yeah, like the Bonies.
yeah, and she was okay watching the movie, but like even this movie gave her nightmares because of those particular zombies. It's like, yep, you can't watch horror movies.
Then I watched Kill Bill Volume 1. Never seen either of the Kill Bill movies. I went through a phase of liking Quentin Tarantino a lot. Now I'm just kind of not exactly for me as much. I guess I find him more interesting. I find his references more interesting than his actual films.
Yeah.
So like I'd rather just see a list of like stuff that influenced him on these movies It's like, okay, I'll just watch those movies instead.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like I was a fan when he first came out, Reservoir Dogs, Fiction, all that. But like by the time we got to Kill Bill, I watched the first one when it came out, and I didn't even bother watching the second one because I just wasn't. I was like, eh.
Hmm.
And most of his stuff, I think he's got a problem with it. Like, actually, I've got several problems with him, but one of them is like recently, and two big examples are what's the Nazi one, Inglorious Bastards, and Once Upon a Time in
Hmm.
Hollywood. Both of those are two movies mashed together, and one of the movies is good in both of them, and one of them is not. So that makes the whole movie overall not as good as it could have been.
Also, it seems like his movies just keep getting longer.
Yeah. And what's weird is Hateful Eight is actually one of my favorites of his, and it's one of his longest, but it's the one where he puts less of his stamp on it. Ironically, makes it one of my more favorite movies of his.
Hmm.
So
Like a murder mystery that also happens to be a western.
yeah, I really dig Hateful Eight.
Hmm. Next, I watched Ikiru, which is by Akira Kurosawa from 1952. And this one is probably one of his more famous films, where it's about a man who just kind of like he's got like a government clerk, bureaucrat type of job. And then he finds out he's dying of stomach cancer. So now, like, okay, I've wasted my whole life. What do I do? And then he sort of kind of finds purpose, even though he's dying. And his purpose is he wants to build a park, like a park for this neighborhood that he thinks they really need it, and they've asked for it and asked for it. Some of the joke is, oh, that means you can go to the parks department. Oh, go to the sanitation department. Oh, just tossing you around through all this red tape.
I need to see more Kurosawa. That's one I'm lacking
This
in.
one's really good. I think it's on the Criterion Channel. Also interesting structurally because it kind of like the first half is like he kind of figures out what he wants to do, and the second half is actually at his wake or at his funeral, and all the guys talking about what he did to get this park and told through flashback. So like halfway through the movie, the main character's already dead.
Oh, crazy.
Hmm. Next, I watched a more recent film, Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
I've seen this title. I
You
don't
seen
know
this one?
anything about it.
It's made by Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumulos, I think is her name. They were the writing team that wrote Bridesmaids together.
Okay.
So this one is they played two Midwestern women named Barb and Star from like a small town in Nebraska, and they decide to go on like their first vacation together, and they go to this really nice Vista Del Mar. Yeah, and so it's just all these characters, these goofy Midwestern characters reacting to just the weird stuff that they find in Florida and at this Florida resort. And then Jamie Dornan is there, who is Mr. 50 Shades of Grey, and he was actually really funny in this one too. They all played off of each other really well. And I like Kristen Wiig a lot, and so this one is so fun, very silly, doesn't take itself seriously at all. Neither should you. Also pretty heartwarming too. At one point, there's like a talking crab who sounds like Morgan Freeman.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check this one out. I just didn't know anything about this one. It sounds fun.
Definitely recommend it. Very goofy, and make sure to wear your culottes. Next, I watched Jour de Fete by Jacques Tati. This is a French film. He only made about like 5 or 6 films. I got a box set of him. I watched one of his films in college for a sound design class, but basically, his movies are a really big influence on Mr. Bean, and it almost feels like a nice transition period from silent era comedies because so much of his humor is very visual and uses kind of like relatively minimal sound design and dialogue. His humor is almost very crazy, kind of goofy sight gags, and it just gets kind of goofier and goofier as his films go along. So this one was the first one he made before he came up with a character where he plays kind of like this postman who's trying to sort of outdo the modern postal system because he's just like a guy on a bicycle who doesn't like modern technology. And a big carnival is coming to town, so he's kind of a curmudgeon about it.
That sounds fun.
These are very fun, very good kind of family comedies.
If they influence Mr.
Next, I
Bean, I might
watched
have to check it out because my family used to watch Mr. Bean together.
Yeah, so next I watched his another film of his called Monsieur Hulot's Holiday. And Monsieur Hulot is sort of his main character. He's always kind of like really tall, always kind of wears like a trench coat, has an umbrella at all times for some reason. And this is when he tries to go to the beach and kind of goofy shenanigans happen, sometimes because of him, sometimes they just happen to him. A lot of great visual humor, and some just goofy jokes all around. Some fun sound design as well. So yeah, he's very much his films are all about visual humor, and that translates very well even if they were in French.
Cool.
And lastly, I watched Spy with the Melissa McCarthy, Jude Law, and Jason Statham, directed by Paul Feig. And man, this one really is just a love letter to James Bond movies with a simple profile like, all right, James Bond movies are their power fantasy, right? But what if we gave this power fantasy to Melissa McCarthy, who's kind of the almost the opposite of a James Bond character?
Yeah, I've seen this one, and Melissa McCarthy can be hit and miss with me. Her movies are either like just complete duds or they're pretty funny. I was a fan of this one.
This one's great, and just Jason Statham playing like this parody of all secret agents, where he just like, I did this, like my arm got torn clean off, then I stitched it together with my other arm, and just playing this absolute idiot.
He was good at like playing this like over the top, like playing it serious, but knowing that it's supposed to be tongue in cheek. Like he really
Yeah.
did that well in this movie. I agree.
Also, had some fun twists. Definitely a love letter to spy movies. And Melissa McCarthy, I think, should be in more action movies because she does a great job in this one.
Well, there's that Thunder Force on Netflix.
I haven't, I might have
My
to check it out. I
well,
do like Octavia Spencer.
my girls and my wife watched that one. I didn't watch it with them, but they watched it and they seem to enjoy it. So
All right, so that's all of my movies.
all right, I watched a lot of stuff, and so some of the stuff it's I'll zip through if it's well known stuff or whatever. But well, let's start off with family movie night. I watched Frozen 2, but that was a repeat. So that was my daughter's choice for family movie night. So I watched it again. I like that one.
Frozen 2 Below Zero.
Yes. Frozen 2. It's the sequel to that one where they're stuck on the ski lift. Did you see that?
Yeah,
Did you see that Frozen movie?
I have not seen that Frozen movie, but I love looking at the Amazon reviews for that. It's like, not the movie for kids. This movie was terrifying.
It actually is terrifying, and it's really good. Then I figured it was time to break out the Bond again, and I haven't watched my Blu-ray box set in a while, so I started at the beginning with Dr. No, 1962. Classic Bond, first Bond, Sean Connery. Got to stop the bad guy on the beach. And you've got Ursula Andress, the first Bond girl, coming out in the bikini. A lot of classic stuff in here. Good movie.
It is fascinating just how quickly they got the formula almost right, and they've kind of stuck to the same formula since the beginning.
They really did. There was very few things that they added. Like this one doesn't have a theme song at the beginning, so they added that on the very next movie. But yeah, like a lot of stuff that you see throughout the entire Bond series really did start with Dr. No. It's pretty crazy. Then Elsa and I finished our Creature from the Black Lagoon series with 1956's The Creature Walks Among Us. This one was some scientists catch the creature and then they do some experiments to make him an air breather. And, that's not going to go wrong, right? And this is one of those, who's the bigger monster, the creature or human? One of those kind of movies. It was kind of interesting. I liked this one. I liked all three of the creature movies, actually.
I didn't know there was a third one. I thought there was just two.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like that's one of the least well-known monster movies, and me and my daughter really dug these three. Then I watched a 1980 flick called Hero at Large with John Ritter. He's this actor trying to get work, and there's this superhero movie coming out, and so he plays, I don't know, Captain Action or whatever, like it's some generic superhero name. And
Turbo Man?
What's that?
Turbo Man?
Turbo
Man. From Jingle All the
Way. And he stands out, he does the dressing up, him and a bunch of other ones dress up outside of a theater when the movie's going on and signing autographs as the superhero for the kids and stuff. And then afterwards he goes into a store and he's still got the suit on, and this guy comes in to rob the store at knife point, and he takes care of him and gets him out of there and chases him out, beats him up. And so then it's like there's this article about, this superhero, it was him from the movies. And so then the PR department catches wind of this and they're trying to find him to spin it to sell the movie more. So it was an interesting little movie. was not great, but it was interesting. And then I watched two movies I'll put together is Creep and Creep 2. I'm usually not a big fan of found footage movies, but this one was the first one was actually just the director and what's the guy's name? The actor who's in The League. That's driving me crazy. I can't come up with his name.
Okay.
Okay, but
Paul Scheer. I know it's not Paul Scheer, but
no. Duplass, Mark Duplass.
Okay.
So it's just him and the director are the only two actors in the first one, and it's like this guy answering an ad saying like, "Oh, this guy wants a videographer for the day, and he'll pay you money." And so he goes to this guy's house, and he just wants to film a day of his life. And Mark Duplass plays the guy. He's like, "Oh, I'm dying, and I've got a kid on the way, so I want you to just film me all day." And it's out in a house out in the edge of town on the woods, and he starts acting really weird, and all this stuff, and it goes into a creepy direction. And Mark Duplass is just really great in this, is like this weird creepo that you're just not sure what is like going on with him. And now that and then after the first movie, when you know who he is exactly, you get a second movie. And I was like, I heard good things about both of them. I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do now that you know what his character is. But then they bring in a girl who like answers an ad to be a videographer for him again. But like it kind of spins it that she's kind of into all this weird stuff that's going on. and I actually really enjoyed both of these. Just a weird, creepy vibe, found footage, because they're just the premise was great for the found footage where they're just videotaping him all day. So I recommend both Creep and Creep 2.
I'm kind of disappointed they called it Creep 2 instead of Creepier.
Creepier.
They're like Creep 2 Creepier, and then Creep 3 Creepiest.
Creepiest, yes. And then
Creep 4 Creep Show.
Then testing out my Dolby Atmos surround some more, I watched Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which is just a great movie all around anyway. It sounded great. But I think most people know this one. If you're not familiar with the Mission Impossible series, what have you been living under a rock? I don't know. Rogue Nation is one of the best of them, so I'd highly recommend it. And then another family movie night, we decided to watch The Mighty Ducks from 1992, which I haven't seen in a long time. So I was like, ooh, is this going to hold up? Because I was in like 92. I was in like middle school when this came out. And I remember liking it. It was a cool little sports movie. And you know what? It still is. I really like this one a lot. Emilio Estevez plays a lawyer who goes out drunk driving after winning a case or whatever. And he has to do some community service to get, to work off his ticket or whatever. And they make him go back to his hometown and coach a little league hockey team, and full of a bunch of misfit kids that, aren't a good team. You know the story.
Yeah, it's a sports movie.
It's a formulaic sports movie, but it's really good. I like it a lot. And my daughters, luckily, it held up. They really enjoyed it too. And then I dipped back into 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, just because I have the Blu-ray and I felt like watching it.
Yep. What more do you need?
I don't think you need more than that. If you like Spider-Man, watch that movie. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we got done with the Creature series, Elsa and I went back into the Mummy series and watched The Mummy's Hand from 1940. And I think this is one where they brought in Boris Karloff. And this one, I think this one and beyond, all the movies deal with the same mummy, whereas like the first one was a different one. So the first one was kind of separated from these. And this one was kind of fun. It was just archaeologists, and they find a mummy's tomb. It's protected by these priests, and they've kept the mummy alive for like 3,000 years. And so it was a fun movie, and we enjoyed this one because the archaeologist, there was an archaeologist and then his funny friend, and we really liked the funny friend. So
were they played by Abbott and Costello?
They might as well have been.
They did meet the money. They did meet the
They
mummy.
did meet the mummy, yes. And then I got to the second movie in my Bond series, From Russia with Love, and I'll just say this is one of the best Bond movies.
Hmm.
Kind of Spectre. You really get this is the first time you really get Spectre, and he mentions, "Oh yeah, Doctor No was someone who worked for me in the first movie." So they kind of retconned that to be Spectre after the second movie. He tries to get the Russians and he tricks the Russians and the British into working together to get a decoding machine that he was going to steal from them once they stole it from whoever. So it's a very convoluted plot, and like every time I watch this, I go, "What is going?" Like, and it's every time I'm going, "I am so lost. I'm so lost." And then it gets to the end, I go, "Oh, I know what's going on." And like it explains it all. Like you end up knowing what is happening. It's like, but for some reason, like I go into this every time going, I don't remember what's going on with this, because it's like, these guys working with these guys and they're trying to deceive these guys, and but it all makes sense in the end. And it's a great movie. Then I had another rewatch, 1987's The Lost Boys. I hadn't watched this in a while. You introduced me to Near Dark, and I'd have to say The Lost Boys and Near Dark are probably my two favorite vampire movies of the 80s. Kiefer Sutherland, the two Coreys, what's the name of the town? The worst part of living in, where is it at? Is all the damn vampires. I love The Lost Boys. If you're into vampires, definitely check that one out.
That's an early Joel Schumacher, I believe.
It is. Joel Schumacher gets a bad rap because of his two Batman movies, and honestly, he's got a lot of good films out there. So don't judge him just on the two Batman movies he made. Then,
But let's be real, they're both masterpieces.
hey, I have a lot of fun watching Batman Forever. Batman and Robin, yes, I'll give you, is garbage. And actually, Batman Forever is not a good movie, but I have a lot of fun watching it.
Are you kidding me? Batman and Robin is the greatest Batman movie.
Holy
Other
rusted
than
metal,
the Adam
Batman!
West Batman. Freeze! Kick some ice! Rubber lips, poison ivy.
But Lost Boys is much better.
I would go that far.
And the next one I watched was another rewatch because my 9-year-old Elsa wanted to. I introduced this movie to her a while ago, and she goes, "I haven't watched that in a while." So we watched 1981's Clash of the Titans, classic, Ray Harryhausen.
Hmm.
Go watch it; it's fantastic. And then I watched on Tubi TV. I watched a 1981 film called Eye of the Needle. This is an interesting one based on a novel by Ken Follett, and it follows Donald Sutherland, who's a Nazi spy, and he's kind of found out by the British, and he flees the country, and he gets caught on this island, marooned there because his boat wrecks, and there's just a woman and her husband in a wheelchair that live on this island with their son, and the lighthouse keeper. So there's a lighthouse keeper on the other side of the island, and that's all that lives there. And he's trying to, like, he gets in good with the family, and then tries to get access to the radio, and deception, all this stuff. And then, like, he kind of, like, the woman is married to a guy in a wheelchair who's got a lot of bitterness about it, so she starts falling for Donald Sutherland. And so it was an interesting movie. I used to read a lot of Ken Follett books, like in high school, actually.
It was the one about building a cathedral, right?
What's that?
That was his big one, which is all about the one about building a cathedral.
I'm not sure if I know that one.
Yeah, you might I don't remember the title.
I think that might be one that they made a TV show out of. I think I kind of remember what you're talking about.
I believe they did.
I never watched that, and I never read that book, but yeah, I know what you're talking about now, though. Then also on Tubi TV, I watched 1995's Rumble in the Bronx with Jackie Chan.
Mm-hmm.
He comes to America. This is one of his first Hollywood movies, I think. He comes to America. His uncle has a store, and he's selling it, and so he comes to help him out with this because his uncle's getting married. And then the woman who buys it ends up hiring him, so he sticks around for a while. And then there's some, like, gangsters in the neighborhood that kind of terrorize things and gets in a beef with him, and then end up destroying the store and all this stuff. And so he's got to fight back, and then it goes crazy from there. So a lot of great Jackie Chan stunts and fighting. Lot of fun because it's early Jackie Chan. So
I mean, who knew that Vancouver looked a lot like New York City, or the other way around?
I guess I didn't know where it was filmed.
It was filmed in Vancouver. Occasionally, you can see the mountains in the background.
Yeah, a lot of fun, and then always stick around in the early Jackie Chan movies because you get to see all of his stunts like gone wrong and bloopers and outtakes, and then all the times he's like breaking his bones and just putting a cast on and doing more. It like the man was an animal, just like he was a machine. I don't know how he did it.
Insane. Yeah, it's still he deserves an Oscar for like lifetime achievement in
He,
stunts.
he deserves an Oscar. It just says just because you're Jackie Chan.
Yeah, at this point.
So, then dipped it back into my Blu-rays with Elsa and watched The Mummy's Tomb from 1942. And like I said, this one was continuing on from The Mummy's Hand, because in The Mummy's Hand, they think they killed the mummy. They took care of the priest. Well, turns out they didn't really take care of either one of them. So then this is like 30 years later. And they get the same the same actors and just put them like, gray their hair. And the priest like passes on to a new watcher over the mummy and sends him and the mummy off to America to kill everyone who was part of that or like the family of the archaeologist. So
Nice.
kind of a cool little movie. I'm excited to watch the next couple.
If I remember correctly, in the later Mummy movies, they got what was it like? Lon Chaney Jr. played the Mummy.
Oh, you know what? I said Boris Karloff on the last one. I think it was Lon Chaney Jr. I think you're right.
Yeah, Boris Karloff was only the first one, right? And
Yeah, he was in the
he
first
was
one.
unique because he's never in like the traditional mummy makeup. You can still always see his face.
Yeah, he was in the first one, and then it was Lon Chaney Jr. in these two.
Best part about that is that allegedly, because the costume was so hot and uncomfortable, I heard rumors that like somehow he was able to get like a flask and a really long straw in his costume, so he could like be sipping bourbon while while in the costume.
That's awesome.
So maybe is he really walk like that, or is he just drunk?
I suppose he's getting into character. He's got to walk with it. Then I went back to Tubi again. I watch a lot of stuff on Tubi, actually.
It's free.
It's free. A lot of good stuff on there. I watched a 1973 film called The Long Goodbye with Elliot Gould playing Philip Marlowe. And this one was much better than the Big Sleep remake that I watched with Robert Mitchum. I really liked this one. Elliot Gould is Marlowe, and he's living in this apartment, and friend stops by and says he needs a ride to Mexico, and so he takes him, and then he finds out the friend's wife is dead, and then the friend is gone, and then he gets fingered for the death of the friend's wife, so then he has to figure out this whole mystery, and lot of fun. I like Elliot Gould in this role. He's really good in this. I don't really know what much else to say about him. He plays very nonchalant and just kind of flippant with like the detectives and the police and everything. And it's a lot of fun to watch him interact with them. And then there's this whole
I want more Philip Marlowe movies.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of The Big Sleep, but I like the character and I'd like to check out some more of these. But The Long Goodbye is there's also one of the henchmen of one of the bad guys in it is a young mustachioed Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun. I was watching the movie and they're panning across and I was like, oh, what? That's Arnold Schwarzenegger, just this minor little role as a bodyguard.
He's a big guy. He could work.
Yeah.
Just need work.
Then from Netflix DVD, I got in the mail a 1980 film called Foxes. This is kind of just a slice of life film about like four friends. One of them is the lead singer of the Runaways, Cherry something or other, Cherry Curry or something like that. And then the main character is played by a young Jodie Foster, and it's a bunch of girls that like just have different, not the greatest family life and all this stuff and how they stick together. And it was interesting because I think it did a good job of like just of that time period, because it was like 1980, so it felt very late 70s, like kind of like lifestyle and what these girls would be like, and with these kind of families and all that stuff, and just trying to make it through life and all that. So
And I assume it's just like the comic strip Foxtrot.
yes, exactly. There also is another. This was another cameo film, like Long Goodbye was with Arnold Schwarzenegger. This one might actually be the first movie performance from Laura Dern. She
Huh.
looks like she's about like 15 in this movie, and she comes to a party, and I think she has just a couple of lines.
Nice.
So, then I watched the next Bond movie, Goldfinger.
This is probably my favorite of the Connery era.
Yeah, between From Russia and Love and this one, these two are great. Goldfinger, just he's after Auric Goldfinger, I think, right? Who's
Point is, there's a woman named Pussy Galore. I don't know how they got away with
yeah,
it.
exactly. I was like, you're not even trying there. You just named her Pussy. Like seriously. um, but yeah, this is he's after this guy who is trying to break into Fort Knox. So they think he's trying to steal all the gold. Turns out he's trying to destroy all the gold so that the gold that he has is worth more. So it's kind of an interesting plot point, actually.
And this is the one with the laser on the table.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
So yeah, Goldfinger, another great Bond movie. Rewatching every time I rewatch this, I forget just how much I like Sean Connery Bond movies.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's fun.
Yeah. Then next on Hulu, I watched for the first time 28 Days Later. I like zombie movies. I really like what's his face, the director. I just drew a blank. Danny Boyle. This one was a good movie, but like, and I think it was on purpose. Like, it just had this handheld feel to it. There was a lot of the camera moved around a lot, and it was hard to tell what was going on in a lot of it. I wasn't too much of a fan of the cinematography and the camera work in this movie. But other than that, I liked it because it was, it felt very Walking Dead. He wakes up and actually, I don't know if this came out around the time that Kirkman started writing Walking Dead. I don't know if
I think this predates Walking Dead by about a year. Walking Dead started coming out in like 2004 or something.
Yeah, this was 2002. So, but Cillian Murphy wakes up in a hospital bed and there's no one around, and then he runs into zombies in a church or something like that. Then he runs into some people who are still alive, and they're trying to find other survivors, and they make it to a military camp, and that's a pretty cool movie. And I don't want to say much where it goes from there, but I'd recommend it if you're a fan of zombie movies. And this one is like a virus, so recommendation. That's on Hulu. And then I bought an Apple TV 4K, and when you buy one of those, you get Apple TV Plus for free for a year.
Nerd.
So I signed up for Apple TV Plus for a year for free, and I'm glad it's free because there's like, how Netflix, Prime, all these streaming services have like thousands of movies each. There's literally like 20 or 30 movies on Apple TV Plus.
Nice.
But I watched one of them is the new Tom Hanks World War II boat movie Greyhound, and this one was basically he's a captain of a boat, and they're going through like they're helping a convoy of supplies get across the ocean, and there's a certain point where the planes have to turn back, and then the other planes like they're in a stretch of ocean where there is no plane support, and you get the U-boats out there, so it's a lot of, oh, there's another U-boat spotted, okay, let's go get him, oh, there's a torpedo coming, steer right, oh, we avoided it, cool, oh, we got the U-boat, oh, there's another U-boat, oh, they're shooting a torpedo at us, steer left. It was an hour and a half of that, and it was kind of repetitive, and there was really no like character development in this movie. There was like no purpose, like it was just a boat taking out U-boats. If you like boat, naval war action movies, It's pretty cool because it's a lot of guns firing and torpedoes and all this stuff, but that's pretty much all it is. So
So Sean Connery was not the Russian U-boat captain.
no, he could have been. Maybe that was in there. They didn't actually
Yeah.
show inside of those U-boats, so it could have been.
So it could have been a Hunt for Red October
It could
movie.
have been. Maybe it was like from the viewpoint of
It was
the
a prequel.
boats, the American boats. Then another family movie night. We watched. It was my choice. My choice. So I chose one of the movies that's up for Best Animated Feature here coming up Sunday, which the Oscars are coming up this Sunday as we're recording this. On Netflix, we watched a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon.
Oh, I love the Shaun the Sheep movies. They're adorable.
Yeah, we watched the first one with our girls a long time ago, and such a cute movie. And this one, just another one that just an alien comes down and lands near the farm, and then like Shaun the Sheep befriends this alien, trying to help him get back home. And it's one of those that there's no talking. It's just stop motion by Aardman, and Aardman does such a wonderful job with stop motion. And it's a movie that just you have a smile on your face watching the entire thing. It's so good.
They're so pure.
That's a good word for the Shaun the Sheep movies. Just pure. There's no real major conflict. It's just pure and fun and joyful and just it's just kind of heartwarming, just kind of a good time. And definitely watch this with your kids. And
Hmm.
it's something the entire family, like anyone can enjoy from like 3 years old to 99 years old. It's such a wonderful film. It probably won't beat, Pixar for Best Picture this year, but it certainly deserves to be in the running, which it is. Next movie I watched was on Amazon Prime from 1990 called Lionheart. I had to dip back into some Jean-Claude Van Damme. I haven't watched him in a while. He plays a guy who's in the Foreign Legion or whatever, taking the rap for his brother, and then he finds out his brother dies, and he's only got 6 months left in the Legion, and so he breaks out anyway because he wants to go help the dead brother's wife, get some money and all this stuff, and she's in L.A. and he ends up landing in New York on a boat and gets into like this underground street fighting scene and and making money that way. And
Does he do the splits?
um no,
But what's the point?
I know. I do not think he did the splits in this one, which is crazy because this was a 1990 Jean-Claude Van Damme. So this is some early Van Damme. It's still really good. This has got like a kind of a sweet story at the end because he finally gets together with the sister-in-law and the daughter's just this sweet little girl, and at first the wife doesn't like him because he actually took the rap for his brother and she doesn't know that, but the little girl starts really liking him, and it's a sweet little story about him like getting this money back and all this stuff. It's a good movie. I like that one. And then
Does it end or he becomes a cop who travels through time?
hey, Time Cop's a good movie too. Come on,
Time Cop should team up with RoboCop.
that'd be great. Uh, on Amazon Prime, also, I watched a 1986 film called Highlander. Um, this surprises me because I was watching it going, like, I know Highlander because it's such a popular pop culture thing, and like I know the music from it, from Queen. And I know a lot of stuff about Highlander. I was watching going, none of this is coming back. I don't think I've actually ever watched Highlander before.
Nice.
I'm going, wait a minute. A 1986 film about immortals who have to chop each other's heads off to get the quickening, which is just essentially their life force. Why did I never actually watch this? It's so great. You have Christopher Lambert, who's a American-born actor who ended up living in France for a while, so he's got a really heavy French accent, and he's playing a Scotsman. And then you have Sean Connery, who's a Scotsman, and he plays a Spaniard.
Yep.
And then you have Clancy Brown being the most badass Clancy Brown has ever been. And I'm going, how have I never seen this Clancy Brown performance before?
He's so good.
If you haven't watched Highlander, watch Highlander. Please. It's on Amazon Prime. So good. And then a couple of quick mentions, just some repeat watches for me. I watched on Blu-ray the 2009 film Star Trek. I liked this reboot. I think the second and third ones had kind of diminishing returns. I still enjoyed them, but I really thought this was a good Star Trek movie.
Star Trek Beyond was my favorite of the trilogy.
You know what? That one was a lot of fun. I think it was because the second one was just a rehash of Wrath of Khan. It was just kind of like
Hmm.
it was good, but it was the same thing. But yeah, Star Trek Beyond was fun. But I really enjoy this. I thought he did a really good job of rebooting it and making it part of Star Trek canon, but also making it a start over, and it all made sense. I thought that was pretty good. So I'd recommend this one if you're a Trek fan. And then
All I can think of is the lens flare.
yeah, and there is a lot of it, but I forgive it just because I like the casting was phenomenal in this new Star Trek
Hmm.
series. I think just top notch, especially Carl
Carl,
Urban as Bones.
yes, he's so grumpy.
He's the best. He's an amazing Bones.
Hmm.
Carl Urban's an amazing. He's just an amazing. I I will
Yeah,
watch him in anything, and I think he should get an Oscar just for being Carl Urban.
for best Carl Urban.
Yes, because he's one of those. It's like every movie you see him in, if you don't know who he is, you can point him out to someone who's seen like 20 of his movies, and they'll go, "That was him. That was that's the same person." Like he really is like different in every movie. He's
Keep watching and do the splits.